Let's talk about the strength of Georgia's offense, which are the running backs. The combination of the offensive line and the running backs, which is another way to say the run game. This is what Georgia needs to lean on from here on out. And I think this is the mistake that was made in the Alabama game, which cost them the opportunity to win. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through the guys. They've got a lot of running backs at Georgia that can make you pay. When you think about the first game of the season and how much they struggled to run the ball at the start of the game, by the end, they had really started moving the ball in a way that on the ground that they wanted. They wound up only with 121 yards total on the ground. Zamir with 71, James Cook with 26. Stetson, of course, had 20. Kenny McIntosh only had 6, and then Kendall Milton was only in there for 1 play. They wound up with 121, which was okay. That's their worst rushing performance of the season. A week later, this is much more what Georgia's been like since. 202 total yards of runs. That's with 15 yards of sacks for Stetson. Okay, so they actually went to 217 with their backs. 88 for Zamir, James Cook with it 41, Kendall Milton 30, Kenny McIntosh 29, Dwan Edwards 27. Okay, then you go to the Tennessee game. James Cook does not play in this game, and nothing. I mean, James. I don't mean it towards James. I'm just saying they wind up with 100. Okay, they ran for 243. Of course, there were negative 30 yards because of that snap that went backwards. So they would have wound up with almost 250 yards rushing had they not had that snap go over, that really bad snap from Trey Hill. Kendall Milton, 56 yards. Zamir, 50 yards. Kenny McIntosh, 45. Jermaine Burton, which was really their best run of the game, with 43. Stetson with 22, and then Edwards with another 7. So you can see here what they're doing. And then this really was the part against Alabama. They were running however they wanted to. You went with 58 yards for Zamir. Kendall Milton, 44. James Cook with 20. Needless to say, James had 101 yards receiving, but that's not what we're talking about. Stetson had some sacks, but he still wound up gaining 12 yards. And then Kenny McIntosh, who got hurt at the start of this game, only had 2 carries for 12 yards. It's a 6-yard average. So your top 2 running backs, 16 carries here, were averaging 5.7 and 7.3 runs per run. This should be the focus of this team. Don't be surprised that from here on out, these guys are going to lace into people. The other thing that you look at and see, and this is kind of problematic in my mind, the fewest amount of runs this season was against Alabama at 30. That's not enough runs, particularly when you're controlling the ball the way that they did. They ran 42 times against the Hogs, 45 against Auburn, and then 50 against UT. To only go for 30 really was a mistake, and I don't expect them to make that mistake again. Now, this Alabama defense is not elite, but Georgia was certainly trading blows with Alabama back and forth. Bama's good on good won the night. But what happens if Georgia controls the ball a little bit more? What if the good on good battle isn't 67 plays that Alabama gets, but more like, that's 76 plays for Alabama to Georgia's 70, but maybe Georgia has 70 and Alabama has 65. So it will be about controlling the ball with these backs. I mean, you look at Zamir, when there's no holes, it's tough for any running back. When Zamir has space, he's been good. When you watch Kendall Milton, he's going to be difficult to deal with maybe now. 6 carries for 44 yards with a 24-yard rip in there. I mean, against Alabama, this run game is going to be hard to stop. Arkansas jacked the line. Once Stetson got in there, things started loosening up a fair amount. And Georgia's run game was suddenly helping the offense in a way that it hadn't been there before because just things weren't working for the offense. Stetson gets in there, things start loosening up, and including Stetson's runs. This Georgia team is going to be predicated on the run. Stop me if you've heard that before. they cannot get into shootouts. They cannot get into basketball games on grass. This is about slowing the tempo of the game down, understanding that your explosion probably comes in 15-yard bursts, not 90-yard plays. And my whole point of talking about this is that you see it's there. And this team has got to take advantage of what they've got with these backs and this offensive line. It's going to be there. There's just, I think Kentucky could be the most problematic team moving forward in terms of dealing with the run, because Kentucky is just going to try to play you in a sandbox. They're not a lot different than Georgia in terms of what their attitude is about playing football. They're rough, they're physical. They just don't have the players Georgia has. But if they're cool to just slam offensive linemen against defensive linemen all game long. Kentucky's cool with that. That could be a problem for Georgia. That was a problem for a lot of teams. I think Kentucky should have beaten Auburn. They had some tough calls in that game. There were some tough calls in that game. So we're going to see, moving forward, I'm pretty sure that what I'm talking about is going to come to fruition. These guys are going to continue to run the ball. 30 times a game is not enough. Zamir for 10 yards, 10 carries a game, that's probably not enough either. Kendall, 6, that's probably not enough. You get Zamir to 15, Kendall closer to 10, James Cook maybe with 7, and everything. Or Kenny gets some of those carries. You just filter it in from there and just see if you can pop one with Jermaine Burton. This can quickly roll downhill on teams that Georgia plays. That's the problem for them. And that's the thing Georgia fans should get used to looking for. Okay, that's the biggest thing there. I'm going to send you right here to a quarterback that Georgia will have in the near future. That's Brock Vandagriff. Make sure you click on these highlights. A lot of people have seen him. Have you? Make sure to click on them right now.